later. As you turn the page to Sunday, all eyes on the Elite Eight and LSU women's basketball as they had a rematch with UCLA from last year, which is kind of, if you look at the storylines, last year in the Elite Eight, LSU faced Iowa, which was a rematch from the national championship that LSU wins. This season in the Elite Eight, LSU faces UCLA, which is a rematch of the Sweet 16 from last year that LSU wins. It was a rocky start, to say the least, shooting from the field, to begin the game. LSU was not shooting the ball well whatsoever. And then kind of started to catch a rhythm later on in the first quarter, and they closed out the first quarter on a nice little run. I think they were up 13-7, 13-9 to close out the first quarter. And I feel like that was really the last lead they had in the game. You can't quote me on that because I don't know for sure, but just off the top of my head, not looking at anything, I believe that was the last time LSU was in front in that game. Because really all the attention, in my opinion, is turned towards that second quarter. That second quarter is where the game should have been won. Not only was it lost in that second quarter, you should have won the game in that second quarter. Lauren Betts doesn't touch the court in the second quarter. That is UCLA's team. As much as they have other pieces, they are built around number 51, the big 6'7", 6'8" center in the lane. That's who they are. You see it by the way they run their offense. When Betts is on the floor, it's catch, high-low, catch, feed the post. Every single time, like on repeat. Even if she kicks it back out, it's going right back in her hands. And credit to Somaya Smith for the way she battled in that game. I was very impressed with the way Somaya continued to push and really played so well in that fourth quarter defensively, forcing multiple turnovers. But in that second quarter, to me, the game should have been won. You got Betts off the court. She doesn't play in the second quarter.
Tamia Gardner did, though.
Yes, Gardner did play in that quarter, but LSU should have been, in my opinion, more aggressive offensively, get to the rim, get to the hoop, go, enforce your will on the opposing team without their enforcer on the court. And LSU wasn't able to do that.
5 of 15 in the second quarter.
Yeah, like that. And I wish we had a shot chart to look at what shots were taken.
1 of 5 from 3.
Right, shot 5 threes without Betts on the court. UCLA wanted LSU to do that. That, in my opinion, I don't have UCLA's scouting report. I think if UCLA looks at Betts not on the floor, LSU shoots 5 3-pointers, they're like,
it's a win.
Okay, perfect. Because they wanted LSU to shoot as many outside shots as they could. UCLA executed their game plan well. They kept LSU out of the lane. They got back on defense every single time. So credit to UCLA there. UCLA is a very good basketball team. It just sucks that when you look at that second quarter, that should have been the time for LSU to kind of take control of that basketball game. You could have swung the momentum into your favor big time without Betts on the floor.
Yeah, you could have killed their will.
100%. Going into halftime, getting ready, and you weren't able to do that. With that being said, you came out in the third quarter, you were still kind of here and there, but credit to LSU in the way they stayed in this basketball game until the end. It didn't feel like they had momentum at all after the first quarter, ever, until that final kind of stretch there in the fourth where they started to bring it back. LSU stayed in that basketball game and battled and battled and battled. The shots just didn't fall offensively.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I would have liked to see Michaela get a handful more looks down the stretch in that fourth quarter when you're battling back and forth. When you're getting those stops, when Samaya's knocking it out of Betts' hand, or she's getting the block, or the jump ball going the other way. In my opinion, the mindset should have been very similar to the NC State game where it's fine 12. Get the ball in Michaela Williams' hands. As much as she really wasn't in a rhythm, she hit 2 big shots to start the fourth quarter, or to kind of get that run going, I think with about 7 or so minutes left in that quarter. And Darren in the chat, 15 turnovers and missed shots they missed 17 shots near the basket. Yeah, no, it was not a clean performance whatsoever. If you went and you asked that team, each player and the coaches, did y'all play your best game? No. Resounding no. If you ask them, did you play a bad game? They probably would say, yeah. They didn't no chance they played near their best.
I mean, Flaugier almost had a 30 ball.
Yeah, and they still were very much in that basketball game closing it out. Somehow Christian started the Addams Family jingle on the watch party, and him and Lloyd in unison, and UCLA starts turning the ball over, missing shots. Like 4 straight stops with the Addams Family. There were some bad turnovers in that game where it was just kind of head-scratching. Like, what are you looking at? Why are you being so passive? And all in all, it was a hard-fought game.
Ugly basketball.
And that's what UCLA wanted.
Yeah, they mucked it up.
That's who they are, because they have the one thing that can kind of break a nasty game. You know, like when a football game can get mucked up, if you've got a bell cow running back, that can kind of clear the way for you. Like if you're LSU and this it's dirty, it's in the mud, you're not able to throw the football. Well, if you've got Leonard Fournette in the backfield, just hand it off, let him go.
Yeah, you're getting it 40 times.
You know? And that's what UCLA has. If it's going to get dirty and messy and scrappy in the lane, they've got 6'8" to dump it down to.
And LSU did what it wanted to do defensively early on. Like, got 2 fouls on bets early. She was counting her blocks, we were counting her fouls. And that's when you would expect LSU to be able to take advantage, but you somehow played right back into UCLA's hands.
Right.
Because they were able to hit outside shots, they were able to move the basketball around, and almost they played better without her in.
100%. It was the offense flowed without Betts on the floor. They caught Gardner one time in the post. She catches, doesn't even turn to look, kick out corner 3. Mm-hmm. And this is what March is about. Players that aren't your star players have to step up for you to go long runs in the tournament to make it to win the national championship. You look at LSU in 23. The story of the NCAA championship game was not Angel Reese 30 points, Flaugier Johnson goes off. It was Jasmine Carson in closing out that first half, putting LSU in front. Like, that was the storyline. Ancillary pieces have to step up. Role players have to become stars for one night to make runs in March.
The ball was tipped.
And that's what happened for UCLA. It didn't happen for LSU. UCLA had Jaime Jaquez's sister and Gardner go 5 of 7 and 4 for 5 from 3. Both teams shot a bad percentage from the field.
It was an ugly game.
Like, it was an ugly basketball game. But I think UCLA made 10 threes, LSU made 5. UCLA hit theirs timely. LSU was kind of finding a rhythm, going on a run. Jaquez hits that 3 in the corner in the fourth quarter, and it was the dagger. Like, LSU still had life until that shot fell.
LSU shot scored on the paint 26-16.
Yep.
And you lose. I don't think you'd have expected that either.
No. They played Betts well. Like, Betts was not the dominating factor in that game. Kiki Rice did not play well in that basketball game. UCLA had pieces outside of those two step up and win them that game. Gardner shooting 5 for 7 when she scored this many points in the Sweet 16 game.
Mm-hmm.
She did not score in their win in the Sweet 16 over Ole Miss.
Put up the same stat line.
And she goes out 5 of 7 from 3. Jaquez, one of their better players, yes. 4 or 5 from 3.
That's the story. I mean, like,
that's who won them the game. It was those two hitting 9 threes. Won UCLA that basketball game. As well as their execution. I mean, UCLA executed. LSU was not scoring fast break points. To me, that would be if I was coaching against LSU, my game plan would be slow it down. Make them score in half-court offense. When you look at the run they went on against Florida State, Yeah, they were moving the basketball, but that was when they were running up and down the floor. They're running up, kicking it there, swing, score. Then they're getting back on defense, turnover again, up the floor, swing, score. That's who LSU is. And they weren't allowed to be that in that game. And UCLA had ancillary pieces step up and win them the game. That's how you win in March. It has to be more than the ones that are expected to do it. And last night, like that's who's LSU's at. Somaya Smith through this beginning of the tournament. As much as she's a player that us who watch the team expect her to go play well, she's not a part of the big three. So she's an ancillary piece that goes out and steps up. I once again want to give her credit for the battle and the performance she had against Betts. Because she was battling. She's got, what, Betts is how much taller than her? How tall is Somaya? Like 6'3"? 6'2"? So she's got 5-6 inches on Betts has on Somaya. And Samaya's down there battling from start to finish. Del Rosario came in the game for a short stretch, caught the elbow to the temple. And this play right here is going to live in my nightmares. This did not cost LSU the game, but man, did it suck.
Kim is right there. Great look at it. Not going to listen.
Yeah, I mean, the officials got a good
They didn't
call.
even review it.
Nope, didn't go take a look at it. And right off the shoe, I mean, that is blatant LSU basketball. The officials were inconsistent in that game.
Yep.
Just to preface it, not the reason LSU lost at all, whatsoever.
But when Father Casey calls in.
But when my dad shoots me a text and says, I'd love to see the balance on what one specific official's calling, because it feels like everything's leaning one way. There were some block charge calls that I did not understand at all. They let one go when Anisa steps over right on time, hit square in the chest. Like when you're taught to take a charge, it's legal guarding position, take it in the chest. Boom. Falls backwards, no call. Okay, if that's the way you're going to call the game, fair enough. Then they get a makeup call on Flaugier. They called it a charge. That one to me was a little more in between, but I still thought it was a charge. Then the Michaela Williams foul later on in the game where I think it was Gardner who took the charge, is turned sideways. Like Michaela hits her right here. That's not legal guarding position ever. Ever. Never has been, never will be. That is universal. You know, and they call that a charge. Michaela scores that bucket. It should have been a block and one. Shoot the free throw. Instead, it's a charge. It's a foul and a turnover going the other way. Inconsistency. Not the reason LSU lost the game. They didn't make shots. They turned the ball over. In my opinion, they didn't defend to the level at which they have been. Because Gardner's looks, while she stepped up, they were open. She made one tough one at the end of the game. She got open looks. She made them, but they were open. They shouldn't have been open. You know? UCLA was able to get to the rim. Greg says LSU shot 12 free throws, UCLA 28. Yeah, there might have been some missed calls with the physicality, and it could have been called a little softer on the other end. LSU shot a lot of shots outside of the lane. UCLA was still attacking the rim, attacking the paint. LSU was not. And that, to me, sucks because, like, they got Betts in foul trouble in the second quarter, 2 fouls. I think she finished the game with 2 fouls. Now, she should have had an offensive foul on the shoving Somaya. As much as Somaya was embellishing and flopping a little bit, that's basketball. That's just how, I mean, that's
part of the game.
That's what they're taught to do.
Yeah.
If they are extending their arms, if they are hitting you in the chest, dropping their shoulder, you're supposed to embellish it somewhat. You would never get a charge call if people didn't flop. Every single time someone took a charge, they could stand their ground and just stand there. But they're falling back to get the call. So Somaya, yeah, her head rocks back. That's why Anisa gets her nose broken and continues the game. We'll get to that in a second because I want to give Anisa Morrow all the flowers in the world.
Unfortunate.
But that should have been an offensive foul. She is plowing through Somaya Smith into Anisa Morrow. But LSU should have said, hey, we're going to go at 51 and draw the fouls. But they didn't. When they were going at her, they were kind of falling away. So she was able to just use her length and block it. They were kind of like they were trying to Euro step around her. They were trying to fade. They were trying to float over. Like, contact. Go be physical. Make her foul you. And that didn't happen, and those things kind of continued on. LSU wasn't able to win that basketball game. But in my opinion, as much as that was a scrappy, ugly, nasty basketball game, that was two very good, high-level basketball teams that knew each other well and both really wanted to win that game, go head-to-head. As scrappy and mucked up as it was, and as poor as LSU's performance was, they still defended well. Like, there were some defensive blunders. They didn't defend to the level they had been. They forced 15 turnovers. That stretch in the fourth quarter where LSU gets themselves back into that basketball game was impressive. Somaya Smith pokes one out. Then there's a block. Then there's a held ball. Then Flau'jae jumps the passing lane. Like, they started getting in that rhythm, that flow, until I think maybe that was when Betts got the offensive rebound and one kind of momentum, like stopper. And then Jaquez hits that three, and that was kind of it. And Gilbert went down on offense, had, a couple of those missed pull-up mid-range that she has been getting worn out about on Twitter. Please refrain from going at the players. Did I agree with Gilbert's decision? No, not really. I wouldn't. If I was the coach, I would not have been a fan of those shots being taken.
Score.
But that's who she is. Mm-hmm. Like, she kind of reverted back to the player she's always been. She's an isolation player. We saw it in the non-conference earlier in the season. And
she's won you basketball games.
100% both Tennessee games. And so to go on social media and bash her for some bad decisions down the stretch is just embarrassing. Don't do that whatsoever. I guarantee you she's probably looking back and saying, should I have shot those shots? Should I have waved off Michaela Williams and drove to the rim? Probably not. But those are shots she's made on a consistent basis this season. They didn't fall last night. She's made those shots against Tennessee and won you those games.
LSU wins that game 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
If it plays out the way it did.
I think so. LSU didn't shoot the ball well.
And I think that's the frustration.
100%.
That game was that game was there for the taking, and you saw their ancillary pieces, six person step up, and LSU's didn't, and that was kind of the difference in the basketball game. Was if you have KG go instead of 0 for 7, she goes
3 for 7,
5 of 11, 5 of 8 from 3, like Tamia Gardner did.
Right,
that's the difference.
Yeah, ancillary pieces stepped up for UCLA. They didn't for LSU.
I will say, a star was born, Somaya Smith.
Somaya Smith has become the player that we were expecting going into her sophomore year before she tore her ACL. After that national championship game where she stepped up, she was an ancillary piece in that game as well, because you still had LaDeja on that roster, who was your big next to Angel. Somaya goes down last season, doesn't play, comes back this season, still was working through it. Still was getting back to who she was. You found out who everyone expected her to be. The expectation of Somaya Smith is who she was this March. What was her stat line last night?
Somaya Smith?
Yep.
Only 6 attempts, 2 of 6, 10 rebounds, 3. But I was just impressed with her defense. 4 points, 4 steals.
Yeah. I mean, she was averaging 17 and 10 going into the game, and she was showing her heart and her soul in defending Betts. That is not an easy thing to do, to guard someone that's 6 inches taller than you and has, I would assume, probably a good bit of weight on Somaya as well, and had Somaya buried countless times. every possession down, she had Somaya buried under the rim. But I guarantee you she didn't finish every single one of those layups. Somaya was battling. Absolutely battling. And speaking of battle, I want to turn the page and talk about Anisa Morrow for a second.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things with this transfer portal age, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but one thing I love is when somebody transfers into LSU and personifies the university and the state. And because to me, that's what makes LSU special, is the attitude. Like you talk about LSU football, like when you get a guy from Louisiana in football, they're different. A 3-star Louisiana kid's different. The reason that's said is because it's true. It's accurate. It's been seen and witnessed. And to me, that's a representation of the state because it's hardworking, get it out the mud type people. And that's what makes LSU different, is because it's built in that same manner. People that bleed purple and gold and go out at 4 a.m. to tailgate. Yeah, I get that that's tailgate. They're still working hard to get out there and make it happen to support their team. Anisa Morrow is that personified. Someone that came into LSU and personified what it means to be a fighting Tiger. Like, there will never be another Anisa Morrow.
God.
Like, she went out there in the Sweet 16 game, 30 points and 19 rebounds. At 6'1", she's undersized. If she's 6'1", maybe 6 foot flat, she's an undersized post player that averaged 15 rebounds. Because it's effort, it's heart, it's determination, and sheer will to go get that basketball every single time. Me and Lloyd say it all the time when we're watching. Like, we don't understand how she gets that ball. Like, how did Anisa Morrow end up with the basketball in her hands? I don't know. But she does it every single time. And for her to come into LSU in the 2 seasons that she's had, perform the way she has, encapsulate the fan base the way she has, and represent LSU to the fullest extent in the way she's done it over these last 2 years, round of applause for number 24 in the purple and gold. It didn't end the way that she obviously would have wanted it to, that LSU would have wanted it to, that I would have wanted it to. I would have wanted to see her put a ring on her finger and win a national championship.
Instead, you see her come back in with a broken nose and play.
Yeah, but she gets her nose busted and she's back on that floor battling. Like, you talk about dogs. Anisa Morrow is the definition. Like, I probably for the season has led the team in minutes. And she's gone in, night out, and performed to the fullest extent. Effort was never a question. Heart was never a question. And that can go for multiple players on that team. But her career at LSU is now coming to an end. And I want to make sure that she gets the flowers and the respect that she deserves because she really was a different type of player. And it like I said, in this transfer portal age, you never know what you're going to get when you go grab somebody from another state or another city. Like, LSU has always been built by Louisiana players, you know? And basketball's a little different because Louisiana basketball is not to the level of Louisiana football. And so, like, when you're thinking about, like, to me, Burrow is the transfer that obviously stands out football just from a playing standpoint. But to me, he had the same attitude and grit and out the mud type swagger of a Louisiana player, even though he came in from Ohio. That's how I feel about Anisa Morrow.
And I feel like you added Anisa Morrow, and I think her expectation was national championship after winning a national championship.
Right.
LSU did the year before, and then it was like an ancillary piece, it felt like, but then you realized the player she is. You're like, God,
yeah.
She's a walking double-double.
Every single night.
Set records at LSU. And for her to, it's just unfortunate the way that her career ends, because I think she came to LSU with the intention of winning a national championship, as they all do.
Right.
But it was just LSU was on such a heater, and then you see the junior year in the way that it did, and then it comes back, and you're like, oh, you have Anisa Morrow, Flage,
right.
Michaela Williams, LSU. And with all that said, you're going to have a lot of pieces for the next year.
Yeah. No, the expectations at LSU now
Or national championship.
are national championship.
And they're good enough to